The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
Well, welcome to the show, Kings and Queens. Now, let me tell you something. National security and global security is an important factor for everyday citizenry. And, of course, security is a bit like peace, identity, and other terminologies in the fold of international political theory has attracted many, many definitions. Unfortunately, many contributors approach these concepts with different ideologies. At the end of the day, security is an important component of your everyday life. And of course, that is why today's show is very, very interesting. I had the pleasure to visit the International Law Enforcement Academy, the Gaborone unit, and it was amazing. I was invited by the U.S. Embassy and, of course, ILEA, Botswana. Now, let me tell you something. You need to understand the work of it. Now, around the world, there are 5 of these ILEA academies around the world. And yes, Botswana is one amongst 5 around the world. The work of the 5 ILEA sponsored, funded and administered by the INL is an important part of the interagency U.S. effort to combat international crime. What do we mean by international crime? Let's call it cross-border crime. The ILEAs advance the anti-crime effort through building the capacity of foreign criminal justice partners of the United States, which includes the Botswana government. The training provided through ILEA is proven effective method for expanding the skills of partner law enforcement affairs, fostering partnerships across national borders within important regions of the world, and improving partner nations' relationship with American law enforcement agencies. What this means is also, I had the pleasure of meeting Denver's finest. There was a homicide unit coming from Denver police unit in the United States. They were actually talking about, homicide. And, a very, very robust training program was conducted in line with homicide, including things like, we discussed things like DNA, we discussed things like patterns, consumer patterns, psychology, including your behavior on your mobile devices. Now, these ILEA locations are located in Budapest, Hungary. They're in Bangkok, Thailand, Otse, Botswana, San Salvador in Latin America, and of course in New Mexico. Over 60,000 individuals from 85 countries have graduated from the International Law Enforcement Academy around the world for the past 20 years. And let me tell you something. I had the pleasure of speaking to Mr. Mark Boswell, who is a program officer at ILEA Botswana, and this was the conversation. Tune in. It's Gabs FM, powered to engage your world. And of course, welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy. I am live in Otse at the International Law Enforcement Academy, and I'm sitting with the program director, Mr. Mark Boswell. And ladies and gentlemen, I had a great tour of our site, which is in Gaborone, in Otse, Botswana, and it's brilliant. I got to see the homicide department. I got to be part and parcel of a homicide training, and I got to interview some of the program directors, some of the program participants. And of course, Mark, thank you so much for the invitation. How are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. Thank you for the opportunity.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much. One thing that I've realized, and I think it's important for Botswana to understand, that this bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and the Botswana government is brilliant, including a lot of the African members. We can't say that we stand alone. And, I've learned so much on this particular tour, including, I think, for context sakes, let's start. What is a homicide case?
Yeah, so a homicide is any time that a murder occurred where there's, someone else involved.
Yeah.
In other words, it wasn't self-inflicted. And that's why the detectives are here from the Denver Police Department in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're seasoned homicide detectives, and they're talking with participants from 7 different African countries.
Nice.
And those participants, the students, are homicide detectives. We have prosecutors, we have judges, we have medical doctors in this class, all taking the same course and sharing information.
My takeaway, I got to, speak to some of the Denver Police Department program participants, or rather the directors directors of the program, and my takeaway was two things. They spoke about patterns and human behavior, how in one place the importance of the smartphone the importance of the smartphone and what it plays in homicide. Right. Number one, the importance of cell phone networks and how they play their role, including consumer behavior. Yeah. How important is it for us to understand that component of homicide?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Human behavior, you cannot hide that. And like the detectives had mentioned, they look at what happened 2 weeks before a homicide.
Yes.
What were the patterns? Where did this person go? Who did they speak to? Did they ever turn off their cell phone?
Yes.
So that's suspicious activity if they happen to just turn off their cell phone when a murder occurred. So this is just one program, Homicide Investigations, of a whole course catalog of the different courses that we offer here at IALEA.
Fantastic. Kings and Queens, if you've just joined us, welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM. I am out at Otse at, of course, the International Law Enforcement Academy. Brilliant. I must say, this is a brilliant and robust. Some of the courses that they offer are sexual and gender-based violence, anti-corruption workshops, leadership for women in the criminal justice sector, cyber dark web and virtual currency investigative workshop. These are courses that are conducted here in Botswana and in partnership with a lot of other African states. And if you've just joined us, I have the honor of speaking to Mr. Mark Boswell. Mark, look, let's talk about the kind of trainings you do provide for crime scene investigators in here at IALEA.
Yes, sir. So we have a lot of different criminal investigation courses that we teach. Homicide is one. We have wildlife investigations. That deals with illegal poaching, taking rhino horn, taking ivory, and really disrupting the whole tourism trade in Africa. So we have investigations for human trafficking, people that are smuggling humans across the border, and illegal slave trade. So the investigations are very numerous, and the courses that we offer are very robust. And we have 35 different African countries in our portfolio. So today you were witness to 7 of those countries being taught homicide investigations.
One thing that stood away from me as a Botswana, as somebody who's, very, very willing to learn about homicide, was the importance of judicial officers and prosecutors to be part and parcel. What the Denver Police Department was saying, that in the United States they have a system where they invite a prosecutor from the district attorney's office, and how they walk through whatever crime from beginning to end. And I think that is one thing that is a takeaway from me, and I'm sincerely hoping that our police service is learning from IALEA. And how important is that for ensuring that there's a better probability of success rate in terms of prosecution?
Absolutely. So if the prosecutors are there from day one, they understand the case better. They understand the witnesses and the evidence that's compiled. And at the end of the investigation, they will be able to put away criminals more effectively.
Absolutely.
And so in this course, I think we learned that there are other African countries who do something very similar and have had success from doing so.
Absolutely. Look, DNA and, DNA banks identifying how important or how helpful is the DNA into the equation of homicide. I mean, often in movies we see the issue of DNA. I've had on my show a lot of people saying that, it's important for us to create what is called a DNA bank. Just walk us through that.
Yeah, so DNA is science, and there's no hiding science or lying about science. It's there, just like your fingerprints. You have unique DNA. In the U.S., we do have a sufficient bank of DNA. Criminals provide that whenever they're sent to prison. And so when there are cases that have DNA, either saliva or blood or some sort of body fluids, they're able to match that up to criminals a lot of times. So it is very important, but it does take resources. And so when we teach courses here in IALEA, we make sure we know our studio audience, who we are teaching, and what resources do they have. So some countries may not have access to DNA banks like the US.
Absolutely. That's understandable. And, it goes to show the importance of DNA even with sexual offenses and things like that. Look, Mark, let me ask you two more questions before I let you go. Who provides the training? Is it the FBI or the crime scene officer, as we usually see them in movies? I know that, and I know the FBI come to IALEA.
Right.
You did mention that you've got the CIA come here, and that goes to show the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and not only the Botswana government, but 35 African institutions or African countries that are part and parcel. And, one thing that I've learned from you, Mark, you say, crime doesn't work in a silo.
Right.
The importance of cross-border partnerships will result in a better Botswana. Walk us through that.
Absolutely. You had mentioned that it seems like crimes are occurring more often in Botswana with handguns, with firearms.
Yes.
And I'm sure that those firearms did not start here in Botswana, so they came from outside of Botswana. And so that's what we do when we talk to our border guards and put on training on how to identify weapons and actually stolen weapons. So that's a very good program as customs and border interdiction. We have at least 24 different U.S. U.S. agencies that teach in our program. FBI is one, Secret Service, ATF. We have Denver Police Department here, which is a local police department in the U.S. But at least 24 different agencies that teach at our facility. And the way they go about teaching is they share their knowledge and experience from the U.S., but really what they want to know is what's happening in the different countries here in Africa, so that they can share that information with others and build those relationships. That's what we try to do here at IALEA, is build those relationships so that the people that graduate, they have someone that they can contact from a different country that have been to the IALEA.
Well, fantastic. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. I do sincerely appreciate the invite. And, this is one of my all-time favorite components of the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and the BW government, as well as the African continent. I think shared security is an important component of our everyday lives. And I must say, your program and your catalog of programs is extremely robust. I mean, community-orientated policing, critical communication skills in officer and citizen encounters. The list goes on and on. Advanced narcotics. The list goes on and on, from wildlife issues to the dark web to radiological and nuclear smuggling. It is an endless. And if you want to find out more about IALEA, feel free to visit www.gaborone.ilea.state.gov. Find out more information. Mark, it's not my last time here.
I hope not.
Never, ever. I'm definitely coming to see some top secret things that I can't share on this platform. Unfortunately, I am, definitely part and parcel of the IALEA family. I must say and congratulate what you're doing. I must congratulate all the IALEA staff, great people, all the programs. I think it's an amazing thing to know that Botswana is definitely in the step in the right direction to achieve a better and a safer Botswana, not only for this country, but for the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swift. You're welcome anytime.
Fantastic.
The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
Well, that was my experience. Let me tell you something. We have a phenomenal and fantastic academy for law enforcement agencies. I got to do a tour around the facility from areas constructed areas for detonating vehicles in order for, policing training to be conducted in line with investigation. They have a number of different, but one component, like I said, that stuck out for me was law enforcement's partnership with what is called the district attorney, or the legal component of, investigation. So what in the United States, what happens is the lawyers or the district attorney's office accompanies a lot of these detectives, especially with homicide cases. So if a homicide case happens today in Tlokweng, it is important for on-site would be a criminal lawyer, for example, who represents the state, and of course the detectives who are investigating that, in order to increase the probability of course, a better chance within the courtroom, which really goes to show the importance of, skill share relationships. And that's what the bilateral relationship between the U.S. Government and the BW government represents, the importance of skill share and learning from one another. Kings and Queens, if you allow me, I'm going to fast continue conversation shortly after this. I'm going to bump you a couple of adverts, and then we're going to continue. We're going to go into Ask the Sharjah just after this, and then I'm going to play you another clip of an interview that we did with a participant at the International Law Enforcement Academy out in Otse. Good morning.
Salajwe. Power to engage your world is on 105.3 FM.
Well, it's Gabs FM, power to engage your world. It's 11:32 across the nation. Welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM. And today, of course, we're talking shared security, the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and the BW government in line with the law enforcement agency. And of course, I have had the pleasure of visiting the International Law Enforcement Academy out in Otse, Botswana, one of our very own. Let me tell you something. They have, for example, right? They have a course called Kidnapping for Ransom. And, the beauty about it is that the U.S. government does not just send any component for or program officers for any of these trainings. They send people like the FBI, the Secret Service, the CIA. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Unit. And these units come and train our very own in Botswana, as well as other African states. They've got over 35 African countries that are part and parcel of Aliyah, and right here in Botswana, we are the central, and we play a huge role for law enforcement within the region. So, Kings and Queens, that is an amazing look. I'm going to cross over to Ask the Sharjah. This is where we get to ask the U.S. Embassy any burning questions that you might have. And of course, we get to ask the acting ambassador, Her Excellency Amanda Jacobson. Now, you ask, are there any scholarship opportunities offered by the U.S. Embassy for Botswana? And this is what she had to say.
Well, although the U.S. Embassy does not offer direct scholarships, there are many individual U.S. colleges and universities that offer financial aid and scholarships to international students, including Botswana. It is really important to note that all types of scholarship and financial aid for international students are highly competitive. Botswana who are interested in studying in the United States should first identify an institution that offers your program of interest, as well as scholarship opportunities or financial aid that you may qualify for. So it's really important to first narrow down the search and determine which college might be the best fit for you. So I really want to underscore that for free information on studying in the United States and financial aid opportunities, I encourage you to go to the following website. So grab your pens: educationusa.state.gov. You can also reach out to our Education USA Botswana office through the following email to book a free advising appointment. It's edusabotswana@state.gov. So again, the email is edusabotswana@state.gov.
Trust me, you want to do the right thing. And I'm telling you, if you're a parent, if you're a young person, if you're an academic, I would suggest that you just engage Education USA and, find out what are the opportunities, what is available. Let me tell you something. In line with education, you've got to be proactive. And I've got to thank the acting ambassador of the United States to the Republic of Botswana, Her Excellency Amanda Jacobson, for always being willing to share their information and, of course, engage us on Gabs FM. Now, like I said, International Law Enforcement Academy, here are some of the objectives. The objective is to support criminal justice institution building in Africa with an emphasis on the rule of law, democratization, and the building of law enforcement capacity to strengthen cooperation among countries in Africa to address problems of narcotics and crime, and of course to provide quality training and institution building assistance to combat transnational crimes, including terrorism, narcotics trafficking, financial crimes, cybercrime, document fraud, illegal firearms trafficking, and migrant smuggling, including to strengthen the cooperation among the law enforcement communities of Botswana and the United States, and as well as other African states. Now, remember, we've had a number of heists that have happened in Botswana. We've had a number of, increased crimes with use of a firearm. And this is where Aliyah, in partnership with the Botswana Police Service and other institutions within this country, are working together, including the BURS. Now, that is definitely something. Look, I got the opportunity to interview one of the participants. He was a gentleman from Congo who was part and parcel of the homicide unit training. And this is an insight of the conversation. Good morning. Well, we're on the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM. And I have the honor of being on site at Aliyah, the International Law Enforcement Academy of Botswana. And of course, currently that is happening right now as we speak is a homicide course that is currently being conducted. Now, sir, you're part of the homicide course. Where are you from and what's your name?
Venez d'où et quel est votre nom?
Je viens de la RDC, je m'appelle Serge Kabango.
My name is Serge and I'm from DRC.
Oh, from DRC. So tell me, what are some of the things and the takeaways that you've learned from the homicide course that you want to take back to DRC in line with homicide?
Dis-moi ce que vous avez appris de ces cours et ce que vous voulez appliquer en RDC.
C'est que d'abord, nous avons appris beaucoup de choses.
We learned a lot.
Ce qui est d'abord le plus important,
the most important,
c'est que on insiste beaucoup sur la procédure.
We have insisted a lot on the procedures.
Surtout sur les preuves.
Mostly on the proof.
C'est-à-dire qu'avant d'inculper quelqu'un, donc avant de tenir coupable un suspect,
before taking any conclusion,
il faut vraiment réunir des preuves et analyser.
You have to put all the proof together and analyze them.
Oui, et cela demande, c'est une équipe, c'est une équipe, on travaille en collaboration.
And you have to put a team together and work together as a team.
Oui, il y a l'équipe d'enquêteurs, il y a des médecins.
There is a team that people investigate, they are doctors.
Et ce qu'on a retenu de plus important,
and mostly what we take note for,
c'est que l'enquête commence dès qu'on a l'information, dès qu'on appelle.
We start doing the follow-up, everything when we just get the call.
Oui, donc ce que je peux dire dans notre méthode.
This is what I can say for the first time.
On a vu beaucoup de cas.
And we have studied a lot of cases.
Donc l'enquête c'est un problème très délicat.
It is something very delicate.
Et parfois, on n'arrive même pas à trouver des solutions après.
And there are sometimes where you don't get solutions.
Well, that's brilliant. Now, I'd like to ask you about the importance of this kind of training for Africa. You know, the importance for Africa and for the African law enforcement, especially in trials and legal issues, to make sure that, these cases come to a conclusion and, we manage to win some of these cases.
Pour les choses surtout légales et comment est-ce que c'est important pour l'Afrique et avoir aussi des solutions concrètes et nous voulons vraiment avoir des solutions pour gagner ces cas.
Oui, en fait, effectivement, il y avait...
It's sure.
échange d'expérience.
We have exchange experience.
On a vu, il y a des différentes lois dans chaque pays.
There are different laws in every country.
Mais dans la majorité, c'est presque la même chose.
The majority is almost the same things.
Il y a des faiblesses de gauche à droite aussi.
There's some weakness left and right.
Nous pensons, avec ce que nous avons appris et ce qu'on a vu faire les autres,
and we think that what we have learned and what we saw others doing,
et nous allons adapter par rapport à nos milliers.
We are going also to see how we can adapt it or we can put it in application in our places.
Et ce que nous avons apprécié, c'est que nos instructeurs,
what we appreciate most is our instructors.
Ils ont des méthodes très très développées.
They've showed us a method that are so developed.
Et ils sont organisés
and well organized.
Et nous allons progressivement suivre ce qu'ils font.
And we are going to put them in practice.
Et tout en adaptant par rapport à nos moyens que nous avons actuellement.
And at the same time, look at the means that we have.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is brilliant. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy. And of course, I am at the International Law Enforcement Academy of Botswana, where currently a homicide unit program is being conducted with many participants from around Africa. Definitely, this goes to show the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government, the BW government, and the rest of Africa. Sir, thank you so much for taking your time to speak to me. Wishing you nothing but the best of luck, and I sincerely hope that you pass on the knowledge to other participants or members of law enforcement out in the DRC. Thank you so much.
Yeah, merci beaucoup pour le temps que vous avez passé avec nous et pour toutes les questions que vous avez répondues, et nous croyons que vous allez passer le message à vos collègues et à autres personnes que vous allez rencontrer dans votre pays. Merci.
Je vous remercie aussi pour votre temps, et je remercie aussi à l'équipe de nos instructeurs parce qu'ils nous ont appris avec tout amour.
Thank you for your time, and I want to also appreciate all our instructors for all the knowledge that they've shared with us.
Surtout, ils étaient patients et très pédagogiques.
They were so patient with us and very technical.
Et je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
Well, good morning, and 395-6962 is my studio line, plus 267-395-6962 is my WhatsApp line, and of course, channel 844 on your favorite DSTV bouquet, anytime you'd like to tune in and be a part of the show. If you've just joined us, welcome. You're on the Stars and Stripes radio show. Now, the next segment, we're going to just touch on Education USA, and the U.S. mission arranges a variety of U.S. government-sponsored exchange programs that link Botswana and Americans together, talking shared culture. These programs are intended to introduce participants to the United States and the American people, and of course the culture, as well as provide them with the chance to exchange ideas with their American colleagues. Educational and cultural exchanges create human bonds and enduring relationships that build the bridges of cooperation and understanding between the people. Feel free, the public affairs section promotes a better understanding of American life, institutions, economy, politics, and culture by promoting American studies abroad, facilitating study in the United States, and promoting studies of American language and literature. Feel free to engage with none other than the Education USA office out at the U.S. Embassy. Let me tell you something. There's a lot that you can gain from this. If I'm not mistaken, there are a number of programs that are offered, and you can take advantage of this. I've been on a number of International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP. I got to go to 5 different states in the United States, and the experience is second to none. It doesn't matter what you say. The level of education, the level of academic institutions are phenomenal. And of course, I would like to encourage you. Let me also encourage you to visit Maboro Dinku Community Garden out in, if I'm not mistaken, it's Extension 11 Park. The U.S. Embassy actually partnered partnered with Gaborone City Council and, of course, the Wat Development Committee to build a community garden out in Extension 11, and it's open to the people, for the people, and all about the people. The garden serves as a place for the community to come together, volunteer, and relax. There are garden beds for people to grow plants, trees, and even vegetables with opportunities to harvest. Let me tell you, there's a lending library that can also be found in the community garden. This is for anyone who wants to, number one, read a book or even lend out a book they have already read to others. It's an easy and effective way to encourage reading and learning. The garden features plants indigenous to Botswana, fruits and vegetables, and if I'm not mistaken, they also have a yoga initiative. Feel free to follow them on their website, www.mabogodinku.squarespace.com, and of course, that is an amazing platform. Now, something that I've also got to share with you that is very, very important. PEPFAR has officially turned 20 years of impact, reflecting on the United States mission to save lives globally. And of course, this month, PEPFAR marks 20 years of PEPFAR, the U.S. President's emergency plan for AIDS relief, and they have committed to ending HIV/AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. This particular initiative started in 2003 and has been going on ever since. They've done an amazing job in terms of capacitating our health in the country. Also, please feel free to also be reminded to follow all the U.S. Embassy social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You want to do this because the U.S. Embassy shares a lot of information about Education USA, about some of the exchange program and what the U.S. Embassy is doing. For example, if I'm not mistaken, today they're out at Baisaro University for the TVET. It's a TVET initiative out at Baisaro University. It's actually a TVET exhibition out at Baisaro University, and they're talking about, two brigade graduates about study and work opportunities in the United States. So if you're around that area, feel free to go to there, and of course you can be a part of that. Naomi is actually the one manning the store. Go to Naomi, say, "What's up, Naomi?" Tell her, Swift says, the opportunity that are available for me to go out in the United States. Let me tell you something. Vocational education is such an important component even of resulting in employment. So please feel free to go. Interesting one. Let me backtrack to PEPFAR. PEPFAR has saved the lives of 21 million and prevented millions more infections, including 5.5 million babies born of HIV free. Now that, whether you like it or not, is definitely a win. Now, kings and queens, I've also got to remind you, did you know that it's Black History Month? I'm hoping, and we're back and forth with the embassy to see what we can do in line with Black History Month. Fingers crossed we might do something next week. Now, Black History Month is such a cool. Now, let me tell you this did you know moment, okay? Did you know cornrows, right? Cornrows, the braids. I don't know whether I should call them braids. No, I shouldn't. They're actually cornrows. Were used to help enslaved people in the U.S. escape slavery. Enslaved people used cornrow-style braids to create maps and deliver messages through their hairstyles. Enslaved people were not allowed to read, so they found ways to pass information through cornrow hairstyles without raising any suspicious of authorities. The term cornrows are believed to have originated in Colombia, South America, where Bencos Bio, a king captured by the Portuguese from Africa, came up with the idea to have women create maps and deliver messages through their hairstyles. They were also called caneros to represent the sugarcane fields where people were enslaved and worked in. The curved cornrows represented the roads they would use to escape. Also, people used their hairstyles to keep gold and hide seeds to help survive after escaping slavery. What you know about that, man? Black History Month is an amazing, whether we like it or not, it also highlights the importance of perseverance and having that spirit of perseverance, and that is an amazing feat. 3956962. If you want to be a part of the conversation, feel free to call in. I'm going to bump you a song. On the other side of this, we're going to continue the conversation. Welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM, and of course, stick and stay, as Big Joe always says. It's none other than Tevin Campbell. He says, can we talk for the lovers? This week was Lovers Avenue, and I hope you had a great time. Kings and Queens, welcome to the show. I go by the name King Swifty Swift, otherwise known as the Prolific One. Now, in closing, this is what I've got to say in closing. Now, the U.S. Embassy would like to call all teachers. We know we've had, a huge national debate in line with teaching and the teaching institution, calling all teachers the Fulbright Distinguished Awards in Teaching for International Teaching Teachers Program. Fulbright is officially open. Now, Fulbright DAI brings outstanding primary, secondary level educators and teacher trainers to the United States for a semester-long program to pursue individual or group projects, take courses for professional development, and share their experience at a U.S. host university. Feel free to follow. You can find out more information on www.bw.usembassy.gov. Just go onto that particular website and search Fulbright, okay? Just type in Fulbright and you'll get more information about it. Let me just open the link for you so that I can share with you the link. Now, if you know a teacher, your aunt is a teacher, mama is a teacher, your sister is a teacher, please tell them Mr. Mpoluka, Swift Mpoluka, saying, hey, there's an opportunity for you. Go to www.fulbright.irex.org. www.fulbright.irex.org. You get more information. It's a teachers exchange program. Please share it with somebody in the teaching fraternity and let's support one another. It's very important. Kings and Queens, this is the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM, the BW government and the U.S. government, talking shared health, shared prosperity, and today we touched on shared security. Great show. Shout out to the International Law Enforcement Academy out in Otsa. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you to the Botswana Police Service and all our security organs that are doing great work in partnership with the U.S. Embassy. Let me tell you something. That's the importance of the Stars and Stripes show, to highlight the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and, of course, the BW government. Kings and Queens, good morning. Have a fantastic one. And be reminded to follow the U.S. Embassy on all social media platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, Facebook. You get a wealth of knowledge from those platforms. Good morning.
The Stars and Stripes show was brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.